Hello, and welcome to Unedited. Hello, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, someday during the week, we come on live here at the RCO Network. And today is like no other. We do have our special guest who is going to be our main speaker at our networking event this Thursday. So this Thursday, July 21st at 5:30 p.m. The link is in the description. Come check her out. But may I welcome Dr. Chris Sopa.
Hello.
Hello, miss. How are you?
I am wonderful. What a great intro. Thank you.
We try around here as the music is coming to an end.
Love it.
Do what we can. So you're going to be joining us this Thursday at our event for RCO Network. I'm pleasantly happy.
You're pleasantly happy.
I was going to say surprised, but I'm not surprised because I know you're coming.
Yes, yeah, that would be a surprise. We would worry about you if you were surprised.
Yeah, I'd be a little bit worried, but
yeah, I'm very excited. I'm so excited. I haven't been to one of your events before. Now I get to speak at one.
You scared?
No, not really. It sounds good. You'll be there, so I know it's all good.
Oh shit! You should be scared then.
I should be scared.
No, so it's interesting. We talk about fear a little bit, right? Because that's. Everything that I've read so far about you and everything we talked about, it's really embracing that sense of fear.
Right.
It just kind of, I think it permeates not only who we are as people. I really think that what identifies us as a person, as a human being, is quantifiably fear. Mm-hmm. It's not happiness.
Yeah.
It's that we constantly live in a state of fear, a state of frustration, state of worry.
Right.
And that's everybody across the board. We live off of fear and worry. If anybody's watched news lately,
yeah.
I will say, I don't know if you've done this too, where you'll watch all these news stories, like the nightly news. I'll watch that every night, and then when it comes down to the feel-good story at the very end, I'm like, oh, I'm done. Turn it off.
Yeah, I can't even watch the news. I watch enough to stay informed. But it really is, I feel like you have to feed your mind like you feed your body. And so I try to feed my mind with the positive things that I know are going to fuel me in the right direction. And so I try to have really great boundaries with what I watch, what I listen to, people I talk to. It's just kind of my discipline,
Yeah, but do you think there is some sort of emotional connection to that? We're getting into psychology because she's a psychologist, yes. and I feel like I can push that button a little bit, though.
Sure.
But do you think, in the reflective sense, that you're avoiding it in a way and not embracing that those things in life are just very prominent? They're just very present.
Yeah, and it's a great question because it's not a matter of avoidance because I know enough of what's going on.
Yeah.
Not afraid to watch it if I have to. If something big happens, of course, I'm going to turn on the news and watch it. But I think it's a matter of knowing your own personal limits. Like you might be able to take in a little bit more negativity maybe than me, depending on our life experiences. And reality is perception. And so you might even perceive something you watch on the news very differently than I do.
Yeah.
I know how I translate things in my head, and I know where my limits are. And I've just learned that over time in the X amount of years. I'm not going to say that I've been alive.
25?
Yeah, 25, 29. We'll go there, 29.
That golden hair says 25
that's right.
to me.
That's right, exactly. But yeah, so it's not so much avoidance, because if it was avoidance, then I think I would probably not go to it altogether. And not even touch it and just not even have it as a part of my life. And
well, it's like that car accident that you just can't avoid. It's like no matter, you're like, hey, it's somebody else's problem, and you're like, you're still kind of looking at it, you kind of really avoid it, and would you quantifiably or at least categorically say that I have trauma if I have been numb to it? Because I think I told you I was in child abuse investigations for like 10 years.
Yes, you did.
And you get kind of numb to a lot of that stuff. It's like, okay, the weird thing, I will explain to you, and it probably a very absurd, kind of response to most people who are watching. But, when we used to get child abuse investigations, sex abuse in particular, sometimes the question is like, well, how bad was it? What level? And for normal people, sex abuse is just flat out, it's all bad. Mm-hmm. But there's different levels, and really it was more in regards to like how can they prosecute the case, because there's touching over the clothes, there's touching under the clothes, there's varying levels on what sex abuse is identified as, and for the most part, not all of it's prosecutable.
Right.
And so we had to take that into account, and in a weird way, it's like, okay, so I have a child dying of meth over here. I have a child at a near drowning over here. And I have this sex abuse case, and she's okay. Technically, she's not involved with the perpetrator, but I do have to address the issue. All that to say, you get kind of numb to some of these things after a while because you've just been so exposed to it. And I think in our culture, we've just been constantly exposed to a lot of these things.
Yeah, and that's where self-awareness comes in. And I think you really need to make sure you're paying attention to the things that matter to you, that you don't become numb to some things you need to pay attention to. You know, your subconscious brain works in a really interesting way because it doesn't know the difference between what you want and don't want, what's good or bad, what's right or wrong. Yeah. Your conscious brain does that. Your subconscious brain only knows what you pay attention to, and that's what it responds to, and that's where your behaviors come from. And so
because I try not to be a sociopath.
Yes, thank you. We all appreciate that. But you know, and that's where making sure that you focus on what do I want to give my attention to, back to the news. What do I want to feed my subconscious brain today?
Yeah, so I apologize if I went too deep into that, but you know, it's just part of my life, and the doctor's here to diagnose me. I'm sure
that's right.
She's got a lot of diagnoses on her head right now. But you know, we're reflective of that only because we're trying to get to a point where I think we're understanding in who we are. Mm-hmm. You know, a large part of what this CEO network is and where I'm at in life, I'm trying to understand things better. Based on my experiences, and then based upon the people I come across, because obviously you've seen things that I haven't seen. Yeah. You know, diagnoses that I haven't identified. So back to my question, do you see a diagnosis here? What am I?
And my psychology
raving narcissist
is like business psychology. So it's industrial organizational. So not so much clinical. But what's interesting is behaviors are the same no matter what. Whether it's clinical, because I had to study some of that as well, getting into IO. And the behavior patterns aren't that different. They express themselves differently based on the personality that is in front of you, but they're pretty much the same. And reading behaviors isn't as hard as you think it is. We all do it naturally all of the time, but when you learn the little kind of tricks with eye movement and, you know, different ways you move your arms and what that usually means pattern-wise, you can read. I can size up somebody in about 5 minutes.
So what's my diagnosis? You
want me to put that on the air?
I'm still waiting. Sure, why not? I'm not ashamed of it.
You like what I get from you, to be honest.
Uh-oh.
Super grounded.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really grounded.
I try, yeah.
Someone who has been through some stuff in their life, has been able to process that well. You know, my whole phrase is you take the lesson and you leave the experience behind, because to me what trauma is you're dragging the experience with you through your life, because your subconscious brain doesn't know the difference if it's happening now or if it happened in the past. And when we replay things in our brain, our subconscious goes, wow, this is real, this is happening. And so knowing how to separate those two, you can kind of tell by somebody's energy, so to speak, how they hold themselves, which is how you hold yourself. That it's like, I've got the lesson. Maybe a little bit of it is kind of left from some things. I feel a little bit of like resistance and heaviness, maybe in some things, but mostly you are in your groove with stuff. You seem like you can go with the flow. You know how to process things.
I set her up for this, by the way.
Yeah, he's paying me to say all of this. Yeah. No, but truly, I get that from you. Just because every single time I've been around you, you've been, you know, pleasant and at peace. You don't seem distracted. You're able to stay in the present moment really well. And that is really one of the keys to look for with people. If someone cannot stay present and they're processing a lot and thinking in the past, thinking in the future, that's when you know there's some things churning underneath.
Well, and the things, you know, we've tried to coach, especially with the other show, The Inner Journey, is that to identify a lot of these things and have these moments of self-reflection. And I would say that if you're troubled by something, it's usually something in the past. And if you're constantly worried about things, it's the future, and you're never really living in that moment.
Right.
You know, and it wasn't too long ago, this past weekend, that I told a family member who was just upset about the situation. We did an Airbnb as a family, and they were just so upset about all the circumstances. I sat down, I'm like, hey, you know what? You're with your family right now. Mm-hmm. Let's worry about the problem later. Mm-hmm. You know, and just enjoy it for what we were hot and sweaty. I mean, it was intolerable to enjoy anybody at that point. But it's just like, you know what, let's make a goof out of this. Let's just, you know, because at the end of the day, we're not going to die, right? You know, we're just going to get in the car and probably, you know, complain a little bit. But, you know, we're all together in this moment, you know, and people kind of tend to forget about that because they're so caught up in either in the past or the future.
Yeah, and we've probably, in the last 2-3 years, just with everything that has gone on, one of the things I think we need to learn is that moments are super precious. You know, we don't know. I just was in Cleveland, and my mom is in her 80s, and every time I'm there and I see her face to face, I never know, and it's not a morbid comment, but it's like I never know if it's the last time I'm going to see her or not. And
well, that's true. Yeah.
and that's with everybody, really. And so it's just being present, being there, really appreciating the moment and appreciating that person, and kind of putting all your stuff aside and just being in the moment. It's harder to do than it sounds, which is why a lot of people don't do it. That's why people who can do it, you can kind of see that, hey, you know, they've got their stuff together. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on here. I was going to say something else, but
swear whatever you want. It's unedited. We're not editing anything. It's all live. People are watching you right now.
All right.
Everything you say. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say you got your shit together. Like you can tell.
Oh, shit is fun.
Yeah. When somebody has,
I was waiting for an F-bomb.
Yeah. We'll do that later. You know, when you can be present, that is hard. It's hard work for people because we always are thinking in the past or in the future. And I think that is a skill, you know?
Yeah, because before we got in the show, there were certain techniques. And believe me, Chris will be here for our event on Thursday. So if you want to purchase tickets, you can meet Chris in person.
Oh, my God.
Right here at RCO Network. Well, maybe not here at the studio, but definitely in the building next door. I can meet her. But before we got on the show, you talked about certain techniques. One of them you said was feeling.
Yes. So there's this exercise. It's one feeling.
Uh-huh.
All right. And I want everybody that's listening to do this. If your higher power, whatever you believe in, God, Buddha, whatever it is, came down here right now. So Robert comes down here right now and says, Robert, from here on out, from this moment on out, you can only have one feeling for the rest of your life. All of the other feelings go away. It can't be happy because I want you to go deeper than happy. And you know you have the feeling.
It's stressful.
I know, it's so stressful. You know you have the feeling. It kind of sends chills down your spine. Yeah. All right. So, for example, mine is inner peace. And so if I were to ask you what's your one feeling, and then I'll tell you how I use it in a minute, what do you think? What comes to mind?
Can't say happiness. A balance.
So balance. And so if that's the feeling you'd want to feel if you couldn't feel anything else.
Yes. Do you want to explain why?
Yeah, please.
So balance for me is, through my experiences, it's not just about happiness. Happiness is a momentary feeling, just like sadness. I think sadness is a momentary feeling. But really interpreting why you feel happy or why you feel sad and being right in the middle. Mm-hmm. Being in that middle void, which is not happiness or sadness. I tell people all the time, I'm content with my life. Mm-hmm. Aren't you happy? Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I guess, sometimes I'm laughing. Is laughing considered happy? Mm-hmm. I don't, I'm not always happy.
Right.
Not everything's always funny.
Right, yeah.
So I like that middle ground where, like, I can embrace, like, right now I'm sad and I don't know why. I'm going to kind of break away from that feeling. I got to get out of that moment, and then I can't be happy. It's just like I'm trying to figure out that balance between both and live in both sides of that.
Yeah. And in the void, you have choice. You
Correct.
can choose, which is great. So yours is
balance.
Thank you. Lost it for a minute. Menopause moment. Sorry, everybody. And so mine's inner peace. And so the way you would use this is with balance. Whenever there's a decision point that comes up in my life, no matter what, for work, personal, something changes and I need to shift, my question is always, does that bring me inner peace? And so if I'm between two different things, like a choice point, I'll take a deep breath, plant my feet on the ground so I'm grounded, take a deep breath, bring up the one, and see what feeling comes up. Is it inner peace? Then I do the same thing, take a breath, plant my feet, bring up the other choice. What comes up? Is it inner peace? Yeah. Whichever one brings up inner peace, that is, to me, the flow. That's what I want. So I lean that way.
Hence the choice, right?
Right. Yeah. So I lean into the one that gives me inner peace. Sometimes you do that and you get I don't know. Nothing comes up. And what I say to people at that point is a yes is you know a yes, and you also really know when it's a no. Yeah. If it's I'm not sure, you either need more time or it's not time. And then you wait until you know that it's a yes or a no. But that feeling, I probably do that every single day. Is this bringing me inner peace? Is this bringing me inner peace? And we can feel it. We all have that gut instinct to drive us. And that's what that does. So that's the one feeling exercise with balance for you. So you would use the word balance. Do I feel balanced? Does this bring me balance?
Yeah, I usually do that in the car because you really can't go anywhere in the car. I mean, you're driving to a location. Don't put the comments in there. But you really can't go anywhere. You're kind of almost in this capsule. Right. And I do my best thoughts in the car. I don't write it down because I'm frustrated. I get frustrated because I can't write everything down. But my best thoughts are in the car. Yeah. Because what are you going to do in there? Mm-hmm. You can't be on the phone because you're driving. Mm-hmm. I guess you can call somebody, but you can't. You're left alone in your thoughts. And I think that's why people crank up the music.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Use it productively.
I try.
Your think tank.
So feeling is one. And then we talked about your other one is prioritize.
Yeah, priorities. And that kind of goes with the third one. So I'm going to bring up the third one too. If that's
You're bringing up two. You're doing a double.
I'm doing a double whammy.
Oh, here we go.
Kind of goes with balance. And so so balance is yours, right?
Yeah,
so let's
mine.
talk about balance. So what's your definition of balance? How would you define it?
I think I kind of went there just a few minutes ago, where like I can embrace both opposing feelings, like happiness, sadness, frustration, and excitement. You know, the one thing that I've been really focusing in on lately is that kind of bubbling, anxious feeling. And when I'm concerned or worried, it always kind of gravitates towards anxiety. And I'm trying to train my brain to be like, okay, so this is a feeling of anxiety, but I really want it to be excitement. It's like before you get on a carnival ride, right? Or the slingshot or like whatever carnival ride you get on, that feeling in your stomach that you're either going to throw up or go crazy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to divert that feeling from that pure like like that anxious, just uncontrolled aspect of that to like more of excited. Hey, I'm ready for this moment. This is going to be a great experience. Trying to deviate from that, but that's old scripts, you know. So that balance part of that. That's how I define it. To understand both sides of the coin.
Okay. All right. And so balance for me. So a lot of people when they think about balance.
Yeah.
And if you talk about it from a work and personal standpoint, they go, oh, it's got to be 50-50, you know, work, personal. I've got to be balanced. I have to give as much time to this as I give to that. And I think that definition is bunk. I don't like that definition at all. How I define balance is knowing what's important to you, or in other words, what your priorities are, and having your actions align with that. Because when we have those feelings when we're at work, like, oh, I feel so guilty, I'm not with my kids, or you're with your kids or with your spouse, and then you go, oh my gosh, I should be checking my emails, you're not balanced. So understanding, number one, the first thing you have to do is the priorities, or what is most important to me. So if I asked you, Robert, I'll just use you as my guinea pig.
I am the only one here.
Right, you are the only one here. What are your top 3 priorities right now in order? So like what would be number 1, number 2, and number 3?
Oh my God. In relation to work, personal, or just
in relation your
everything?
whole life, because you're the same person, work and personal. So your whole life in general.
Oh man, I have a list.
What is one? What's the first one?
So the first one is getting ready for this event. You know, the event is on Thursday. So the primary concern that I have, and it's always that way, is worried about people's feelings and emotions when they walk away. Do they feel good about what they were encountering, who they met, the experience they had? That's really center for me on that.
So I'm going to back you up. I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to back you up.
Oh boy.
Priorities is different than tasks.
Oh, there you go.
So not your tasks. Like if you have your to-do list and I say, what are your top 3 priorities? And I'm going to do this. That's not what I mean.
Okay.
I want, go big, priorities in your life, like your health, your family, your relationship with your kids, money, career, things like that.
Accomplishing my passion. You know,
so that would be number 1.
Yeah, and my passion is connecting with people in relationships.
Okay. Then what would be number 2?
The second one that comes to mind is family. So that includes my wife and the people around me that are important too.
Okay, and then the third one.
Oh my God, that's really all I have.
So if it's just 2, that's good.
Those are my 2 main.
So understanding those 2, and that's your priorities now. Priorities shift, right? So 6 weeks from now, if something different happens in your life, you might not have, your priorities might change. Yeah. They might flip flop. Maybe, God forbid, a health thing happens and health becomes your priority.
I guess health should be my third.
yeah, well, it could be. Yeah, and there's no shoulds. Like, don't should on yourself. We don't want to should on ourselves. But understanding what they are now, and we should be. I just shoulded on myself too.
We should everywhere.
We should be. We're just shoulding everywhere on the show. Oh my God. You should be revisiting those on a regular basis, just to check, especially if a life event changes, if something in your life changes. But you know those priorities, and so knowing your number 1 and number 2. Yeah. If I were a fly, and I followed you around all day, and I did not know what your priorities were, by watching your behaviors and your actions all day long, would I be able to then at the end of the day go, Robert's number 1 priority is this and his number 2 priority is this? Would I be able to do that?
I believe so, because a lot of my actions I feel at times are very selfish, because the goal for me is to create that life, and not so much, I guess it's all related to my passion. So I live every moment as best as I can. and not worry about the things like money or the direction it's going. I embrace in those experiences and so much of that. So I tend to feel very selfish when it comes to that, and I find myself doing a lot of selfish actions, and I have to remind myself, pull back, like, hey, you got to spend time with Violet. You have to go home. You have to do these things. Okay. Oh, it's 6:00. I'm reminding myself constantly because I'm so caught up in that.
Yeah, you're passionate about what you do. Yeah. And that's great. And so the whole idea with balance and priorities, the reason they go together is because when you understand this, these are my priorities and what's important to me. Again, different than tasks. And are my behaviors in alignment with what I'm saying? So honesty is what I say. Integrity is what I do. A lot of people are honest and they truly say, like, gosh, my family is my priority. It is. But when it comes to integrity and living into that, not so much. They usually don't align. When those align, that is balance. That is when you no longer then have that feeling of doing one thing, worrying about the other thing. That to me, and when I am in that groove, that's my inner peace. That's where I feel inner peace, where I get the priorities, I'm living into them. I feel like I've made the best choices for myself in this moment. I'm honoring myself. I'm honoring the other people that are with me. When I don't behave according to those priorities, to me, when I'm out of integrity, and when any of us are out of integrity with ourselves, that's a notch. Boom, it hits our self-esteem and our confidence every single time. Every single time, because we're like, darn it, because we keep our word to each other, but keeping our word to ourselves is so hard for us for some reason, and when you're able to have a process like that, where you're just like, hey, here's my top 2 priorities, and here's what I need to do to live into that. We're not going to be perfect every day, but we do our best every day. Our best is different every day, and as long as like I did the best I could today, then we're good. Then we can end the day and put our head on our pillow and
do you ever have those moments of feeling selfish too? Like, hey, you're so driven, and the people in your life. I mean, I don't know what your marital situation or status is, and I won't ask you, but
I'm single. It's all right. Put it out there.
Well, I don't know. We didn't talk about that.
Married for 17 years, divorced.
The one question I usually ask before we start is like, is there any line in the sand that we can't cross?
No line in the sand for me. You're all good. Yeah.
And one of them one time was relationships, and I kind of went there and I bit my tongue a little bit. Yeah. But I tend to believe, again, do you believe that some of your actions are selfish? And because, I mean, the intent is to create a bigger thing, to create something bigger than yourself, right? I mean, that's really what passion is, I believe. And, do you get those moments of feeling selfish? Like, hey, you know what? Like you're running late. You're supposed to go to dinner with whoever, your mom or something, but you have to send that one last email. You have to send that one last thing or do that one last whatever before you leave, and you're always constantly running late. Mm-hmm. Do you ever get those moments of like feeling selfish that way?
I used to a lot, honestly, and that was something I had to work on, and it really depends on your definition of selfish, because I think a lot of people think selfish and self-care are the same thing. And this is, again, it comes back to priorities and understanding and communication, with those we love and with our friends and those important to us in our life. But when I was feeling selfish a lot because of little things, I found that was when I was in this, I used to be, I call myself a recovering control freak. Because I used to feel like I can control everything and every situation, every outcome. And that's based in fear. Going back to the beginning of what you were talking about, fear, control is based in fear. And when I finally let that go, and I think it happens as you get older, because as you get more life experiences, you have more resources, you understand things from a different perspective, you kind of realize, like, I can't control everything. But when I look at every situation that comes up in my life, and so I'm running late, and you start to feel a little selfish. You look at that and you go, what can I control? Because you can either control it, there's stuff you can control, there's stuff you can influence, and there's things that are out of bounds. And so whenever I find myself now in a situation like that, I go, okay, Chris, what can you control? Focus on that. Focus your energy there. Because the majority of the time, 80% of the time, we're focused on out of bounds. You're worried about how other people feel. Well, guess what, Robert? You can't control how they feel. You can influence it, but you can't control it. Right? What can you control? You can control your
Well,
energy,
the thing is, like,
presence,
so the reason I bring it up is because, like, these people in your life, you want them there, which if you happen to pick that particular person, family, friends, spouse, whoever, you want them there in your life. So you're also subject to a lot of that stuff and trying to manage that. And know that if you want them there present in your life, you kind of have to subjugate something or give up something, the time, if anything, to be there with them or for them, and kind of deal with those things that they're normally going to bring on your table, like make you feel guilty about running late all the time. So it's again, going to that balance part is like, okay, so I know for me, I have a passion that I want to complete things, and I have a bigger picture, and because I'm with an accountant who's like correlates everything with money, like how much money is that making? Like, no, well, you see, there's a bigger picture here.
Right.
When you have a person that doesn't see that the same way, there is that sense of like guilt, I guess, that because you have to kind of, again, give in order to receive.
Yeah. And that's where you have to find the balance in the relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. That's the give or take. Like what can you do to help with your significant other's feeling of like, hey, you're always late, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
That's where you have to be able to communicate and be willing. And again, it comes back to priorities.
Yeah.
If the relationship's a priority, then you will be willing to do what you need to do to keep it okay, keep it good, right?
That is number 2.
Yeah.
That's priority number 2.
Yeah, it is number 2. And so again, actions are your actions. So being late all of the time, if I could put you on the spot, if I were a fly flying around and I followed you around for a month and every single time you had to meet with your wife, you were late, I wouldn't put that on, like that mustn't be a priority for Robert. By watching your behaviors. Again, intention is there, but behaviors are different. And so it's what can you shift slightly to change that?
Right? The good thing is that she's...
This is turning into a therapy session.
I know. The good thing is, and the reason I appreciate her a lot is because she will give me the shit that I well deserve at times, because sometimes I do overspend, and I will be here at the office way longer than I probably should just because I'm in the moment, She's well intended, and she allows me that room, and that's probably the biggest piece I appreciate about her and her relationship with me, because she has to deal with a lot of shit. There's a lot that comes with this, I will tell you that. But we're at the end of the show already.
Wow.
It's been almost 30 minutes.
Wow.
We've been ranting and raving. So I did want to mention again that if you want to meet Dr. Chris, she is here, going to be here on Thursday, July 21st. The link is in the description. If you, it's going to be in the bottom, top, somewhere around there. But also follow Chris, not Dr. Chris, unless you want to. She's got a website here, so go to chrissopa.com and find out about her consulting, her services. What services do you have?
Executive coaching, consulting, a ton of speaking.
I feel like we barely scratched the surface, though.
We did. I'm such a deep individual.
I know. We got deep.
We did. We got deep.
We got real deep.
There we go.
Or go to Facebook at Chris Sopa PhD. Your face is on your face. Hold on.
My face is on my face.
Let me get you out of it.
That's
See?
all right.
There she is. I'm hiding
That's
her.
okay. Same person.
It's the same one. Dr. Chris Sopa PhD on Facebook. And then also go to Instagram, Chris Sopa PhD, and find her there. Is there, since we're at the end of the show, I always kind of give the last word to the guest, which is yourself, Miss.
I get the last word.
You get the last word of the day. So what have we learned today?
What have we learned? Just how about a message for everyone? It's just like, don't be afraid to be your true self. You know what I mean? Be who you are. Don't worry about what other people think. Don't live in fear. Make decisions from a place of being grounded and your true self rather than fear. That's what I would say. Easier said than done, I know, but you can do it.
And that's what happens. So well said, Miss. I appreciate you coming in for the show today. So if you want to catch Dr. Chris again, tickets are on sale. The link is on the top bottom. Eventbrite, they're on sale now.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. This was great.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you. And we'll catch you guys next time here on
See ya.
Unedited. There we go.